Somebody in Twitch wants to know who's doing today's snail joke.
What an excellent question.
Do not have one queued up.
No queued up snail jokes. Daniel, you don't have one? None from Shane? Really? Wayne? No? Oh.
Okay, we have 40 minutes to Google and find the best snail joke you can. And share them at the end.
Original snail jokes only, please.
Oh, original snail jokes. Got it. Well, I'm no good at coming up with jokes, so I will leave that to those who are more talented. All right, on that note, since we have no snail jokes yet, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you all again this week. And pull up my notes here so I know what I'm talking about. First update is we have meetups. I think I've been saying we're trying to do 3 to 4 meetups a month, and we had our first June meetup. Our July meetup was last night. Gareth spoke on Salt Pillar for Secrets Management. That was last night US time. We are repeating that topic next week, the 15th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. UTC, so that our friends overseas can also attend that meetup and hear the topic. Then on the 22nd, we have Christian McHugh speaking on integrating Zabbix and Salt, which interestingly enough, I saw somebody in the formulas working group asking about Zabbix. So I'm gonna have to make sure that she knows about that meetup talk. And then if he's willing, we'll have Christian repeat that talk as well so that we can have our friends overseas see that one as well. There've been a couple schedule changes for the working groups, nothing major. I've been posting those in announcements on Slack and updating the community calendar. Just a couple little schedule changes due to things coming up, and then for the one group, it just made sense for them to meet at a different time. The other big thing, and we'll talk about this more in detail later, but we are well underway for planning the community PR Merge Jam. That'll be July 28th through 30th, and a little bit later on, I'll tell you all about kind of what we're planning, and I'd like to hear some feedback on what people would like to see out of this event. Any other housekeeping items? No. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to speak up or drop them in the chat. That goes for people on Twitch and Zoom, and I'll kind of moderate and make sure those questions get answered and addressed. All right, cool. So next up, we have an update on the sodium point release, and that is DWA's taking care of it.
Yeah, so we're a little bit held up on the point release due to some branch test failures that have been failing since we tagged. We are working on getting those fixed this week, and as soon as we have a pull request for those, which we expect to have hopefully tomorrow morning, we'll get that merged in, and then we'll start merging everything else that's tagged for 3001.1. So our original release date was for Wednesday of next week, which was the 15th. And we expect that this is going to postpone the release until the Monday, the 20th of July.
Yeah, that's it's a change, and we were actually just talking about it right before this meeting, so we're announcing it here since this is where we are. We'll also put out that announcement and a singular announcement to the channels and make sure that that's well known for everybody in the community, and hopefully that will get dispersed. But you guys are hearing it first. Any questions from people? Concerns? Jokes? Political views?
Do we know why it's been, or what do you know about why it's been pushed back?
It has to do with that test failure, and that we have not, I actually take responsibility for this, that we didn't make that more of a priority and get that completed in time. We knew that it was a failure and had it assigned and had people working on it. When that wasn't easily reproduced, that fell behind in their priority, and we didn't make that loud enough and swarm on it. And in the future, I'm going to do something completely different.
All right, cool.
But great question. Thanks.
I figured somebody would ask that at some point, so trying to anticipate. Next up, we have the magnesium release. We're in the midst of planning for that as well. And I think Gareth or Sage, we're going to talk a little bit about what it is that we have planned for this next release.
Yeah, so as we're looking at planning, we are looking to do a lot of items that have fallen off of releases and been pushed. So still looking to do some tornado work. We're also looking to do quite a few bugs. Of course, we prioritize those based on criticality or severity, and of course regressions and test failures, and that kind of all goes into sort of things that we know that we need to do. Along with that, there's things that we're always doing, like deprecation warnings and updates to those warnings, and making sure that those are being either removed or updated as needed. And looking towards also making sure that we are being more clear in our communication. And with that, we've actually been looking at some interesting things like automation and making sure that we're communicating out when people submit an issue or a pull request, and how we can get that information out more readily and give good information. So that's something that we're looking at for this next magnesium release. There's some other exciting things, I think, on the horizon with that, but for right now, we're going to focus efforts on a singular piece so that we can get that right and then move forward instead of trying to do big picture all at once. Any questions about that before I move on to anything else?
On the community end, some of the magnesium deliverables that we're planning are, the first visible thing is going to be this PR merge jam, which will have some lightning talks and stuff around as well, but then also working on finding some sort of single source of information for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if it's an RSS feed, we don't know if it's a forum. I want to get people's opinions on that here in a little bit. And then also just kind of making it easier for people who are new to SALT and want to start contributing, start building out contributor guides and just making documentation more clear, so when a community member comes in, they know where they can start and how they can help out.
Yes. Yeah, so I was just stopping on that one in case people had questions about that one, but thank you. That's a good overview of some of the other larger items. We are also looking towards packaging for a single binary, and so there's some work to do there. We will continue some work on issues that we see in Python 3 and moving to Python 3. We know that those are out there, and we're going to try to prioritize those so that we can make that a better effort. And we're also looking to, we're looking at things to, how do I put this? Maybe expand the work groups, or even think about how we could invoke a architectural board that's community driven and community involved. And not really sure what that looks like right now since we're still in planning, but that's something that we're looking towards, that we would love to have a forum or a way that we can have in person as well as asynchronous communication about something that would come before a SEP. So before the enhancement would even get written, we could talk about architecturally, how are we going to do this? And is this the right way? And how would we implement this? And does this fit here? And is it now? And those types of discussions. And that one's actually really exciting. And I'm hoping that we're gonna move forward with planning and then can give you more details there. We're also looking at, let's see, making releases more clear. So answering that question that I think comes up over and over again is, when will my PR get merged? If it's not this release, is it the next one? And how do I know that? Or my issue or my feature request? And we're looking into that right now. That one has not had as much planning this week as it probably will next week. And that's how I have it just scheduled for the right people to be in that conversation. But we are looking at that pretty heavily because I think that's a question in everybody's mind that we need to answer. We're also looking at being able to give working groups and community members in general more access to GitHub so that they can help us with triage, with labeling, with assignments, and being able to help us with our backlog and get that moving. That's something that is a long time coming, and I'm hoping to move the needle on that one. I have lots to do there that's on my end, but I'm looking to make sure that that happens so that we can make that more exposed to the community. And I think that's everything that I have. I don't think I missed anything. Cassandra got a lot of the ones that I didn't say. Gareth, did I miss anything?
I think the only other thing I would mention is like we're doing some like heavy focus on tests and test times and just general
Yes,
PR runs, just to make sure that we, for people that are making contributions, that they're not waiting around for hours and hours to see if their pull request is ready to be merged in. So that's that will be one of our focuses for foci. I don't know what the plural of focuses is going forward. So yeah, and just I wanted to give a quick mention to and a thank you to all the people who have been putting in PRs and have been including tests. We did get some, as I'm sure everyone is aware, we got some initial pushback on requiring tests, but it's good to see that people are adopting that that way of moving forward. That will just lead to SALT being more stable in the future. So thank you.
Well, and I saw actually a handful of people have joined since Sage started giving her update. So for those who missed it, basically what we were doing was overviewing all the things that we're working on for magnesium planning. And the notes for this open hour will be posted later, and the video will be posted later, so you can catch up. Trying to get back into a cadence of doing those on Friday afternoons, but that's very hit or miss depending on what else is going on, to be honest. But all the working group videos up through the end of June are up to date. We didn't have any working groups last week, so. All right, magnesium planning, kind of bouncing off that. So the next thing on the agenda is the PR Merge Jam, which we did one of these internally, so we're kind of going off of how we did the internal Merge Jam and building and improving. So part of this is that there will be kind of a like a pre-gaming preparation time. So we'll have a document that we'll publish out that'll tell you how to get your machine set up, give you time to set up the environment as well, and we'll also share out the list of PRs that we have that are eligible to be merged, so that when people come to this jam at the end of the month, you can at least have some idea of what it is that you're going to be working with and where you'll want help. Logistics wise, it's going to run the 28th through the 30th. There will be somebody from the core team available to support during at least some of those time blocks, and we're trying to do this so that it accommodates everybody from our various user base and our contributor base, make sure people have a chance to participate. We're going to be kicking it off with probably like a lightning talk sort of idea, kind of a little talk, and then at the end we'll do a wrap up, kind of retrospective on what went well and what didn't, and people are welcome to give lightning talks then as well as kind of a wrap up event to the Merge Jam. If you're not familiar with the lightning talk, it's basically a 5-minute talk. It can be on anything related to SALT. Perfect examples are how are you using SALT, either in your day-to-day work or in your side projects. If you'd like to give a little 5-minute talk about that, it doesn't have to be anything formal, but please let me know. So we'll be doing kind of a call for speakers for that, but I'd love to hear what topics, what things you'd like to hear about, or what things you would like to speak on for the Merge Jam. I'm trying to think what else we need. I think that's the basics for the Merge Jam. We'll have the preparation documents out in the next few days. We'll have the merge backlog out in the next few days. We'll have the event up on Bevy as well so that people can RSVP, and then we'll work on the scheduling. Anything I missed on the merge jam? Coordination of that is kind of a group effort between Gareth, Wayne, Sage, and me, so I appreciate their help with this.
What is the merged jam for somebody who missed the entry point then?
Good question. I feel like Sage can probably, or somebody can explain it better than me.
Yeah, so when we changed from the develop branch to the master branch, we had a lot of PRs that had been merged into develop that needed to get into master. We had quite a backlog. I think we had, was it 1,000 and close to 1,000?
Yeah.
And we've, it was 1,000. And so we've burned down to about 250, but we still have some left. And so this jam is a community effort to kind of burn those down and see if we can get those merged in or understand that they don't need to be merged in, and just burn that backlog down that's specific to that effort of these were in develop and now they need to be in master, or they need to be decided that they won't be.
And one of the blockers to why, one of the blockers to why things aren't merged sometimes is tests. So we will be focusing on getting tests for those things that we'd like to merge.
Yeah, because when we were accepting PRs for develop, we didn't require tests to be written, and so a lot of the delay of getting things ported is to make sure that we do have tests written. And so even though we may have the code in a PR ready to port, going back and understanding how to write a test for that takes just a little bit extra effort, a little bit extra time. And so we're trying to do that in an effort to improve our testing overall, as well as get those merged. So it's definitely been long-standing, but I think it's going to be well worth it to put that extra effort in to have those tests there.
I tried to join in order to get more experience with testing, which I have a bad feeling about. I feel I'm not very fluent in writing a test.
Yeah, and we've had some test clinics. Wayne has done some test clinics on writing tests, and we definitely in Magnesium, part of the documentation updates and with testing and making testing better is to make sure that we have that documentation really up to date to say this is how we, this is an example of how to write a test, and this is how we expect these tests to be written or used. And we know we have some work there as well. The testing clinics, I believe, are on the community calendar to be joined. And I think those are recorded for at least a little while. Is that right? On Twitch?
Excellent. Could I ask, related to testing, the test time, somebody, you mentioned the test time is going down, which is excellent news. I had very good experience with doing profiling on the Salt Master and lately also on the Minion. I would like to join forces with somebody who's also interested in learning about profiling, and then maybe we're even going much further than I am currently, because I think if testing is faster, then it's also much more attractive and everybody is more happy, and this could be speeded up, and profiling is for speeding up. So
Absolutely.
ask somebody now if he would like to cooperate with me.
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm not sure if that fits in with the testing clinic or if that fits in with that. We have a testing working group, and I'm not sure which one actually. Maybe both.
Wayne, what would your thoughts be since you're the one who runs a test clinic? I feel like they're just kind of an open time for people to bring test related questions or tests that need written, but I'd like your take on that.
Yeah, or Kirill, if you have an opinion. And maybe we need to just take it back and discuss. That's fine. It's a great option though. I love that idea. I'll take an action item just to update that, Marcus, and try to get you an answer. Okay.
All right. Wayne says his internet is kind of choppy right now, but any and all test-related questions are welcome at the test clinic.
Yeah, so it sounds like we could do it there. Marcus, I'll make sure that you have that information on when he's holding those.
Okay.
Yeah, and if that turns into something bigger than that, that's great. Maybe we take it to the working group. Not sure yet, but we'll see. I think that's a great start though. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Marcus.
Anything else anybody has to add about testing? Okay, and any other questions about the merge jam and how it's going to look? We will have more of a schedule out over the next few weeks.
Yeah, and we'll have a like an environment setup, sort of pre-jam that can help you get your environment set up if you don't already. And we'll have some really detailed instructions on how we're going to run and track things, so that that'll be just really simple and obvious, and people will have access to it. And that should be great. Cassandra's done a great job there, and so I think it's going to be awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, Cassandra's organized a lot of events, but not a merge jam. So I'm glad that other people on the team have done this kind of thing before. But I have ideas. I'm actually going to be among the talks we're doing. So I know you said we wanted like lightning talks about how you're using salt, maybe cool things you can do. I'd also be open to other talks about, improving yourself as a tech professional. So I'll be doing probably a 5-minute thing on how to get involved in the community and why that's important, and just kind of bring in my perspective and my experiences and give some people instructions around that. So that's one thing I'm working on as part of the jam. And I want to do some fun little things, we have music and or polls or just something to keep people engaged and getting to know each other a little bit. Since we can't meet in person for something like this, we want to try to replicate or change some of those things for an online event. So. All right, next up then we touched on this earlier. I know that one of our big kind of recurring themes is trying to improve communications, make sure people can get the information they need. There's an interesting topic that came up this week actually in the IRC channel on Slack, in that somebody, I don't know if they're newer to the community or not, but they were asking questions and asking like, where is the best place to even get information about SaltStack? Right now the community site and stuff directs you to the Slack channel, which is great, but so I don't remember who it was put it. Somebody said, but it's feast or famine with kind of when people can answer questions and help you out and those sorts of things. So we're trying to figure out maybe if there are better ways for people to A, ask questions and discuss the salt product, whether it's through a forum or some other format, and B, if we were to implement an RSS feed, what kind of information would people want in that? So I wanted to open that up to general discussion and find out what everybody thinks about even having some sort of a forum. Is that something that people would be willing to use? Type your yeses and nos and thoughts in the comments, please.
In the recent past, we'd had a lot of people ask for an RSS feed, and we did put out an RSS feed specific to security related issues and releases, and that is available. It's a fairly narrow RSS feed, and when people were asking for that, I don't know that that is exactly the narrowest view that they were looking for. So we wanted to bring that back up and make sure that we're perhaps giving an RSS feed that has more than that. And if it does, is it the whole world? Is it everything? Is it the buffet? Do people want a buffet of an RSS feed that then they can go through? Or are they looking for something else that is also more narrowly focused, like a security RSS feed or a release RSS feed? Or what is it that you guys are looking for with that? If we could get more information, we would love to provide that. The buffet to most of us sounds like that's too much information. So just opening that up for discussion and wanting to make sure we're giving you guys the information that you want where you want it.
Yeah, like we're doing those weekly what's happening at Salt Stack posts, and those are going on Slack and Google and then live on the community wiki. But if that's something that people would want incorporated into a feed, we could certainly do that. It's this balance between making sure people have important information and not spamming you all with too much information, or allowing you to cultivate what information it is that you want and need. So now is your time to speak up. If there was an RSS feed, would you, just quick yes or no, if there was an RSS feed, would you subscribe to it?
Should we do a poll?
That's what I'm trying to find the thing to start a poll.
Awesome.
If it was specific to certain topics, maybe related to issues and PRs, yes. I can see where that would be useful. And it seems like, I think SEPs would belong in this as well, like when new SEPs come out or they're closing. Because I know that's one thing where people are not always as informed as they'd like to be. Mark, somebody else is not using feeds. I don't actually use RSS feeds either. Since Google Reader died years ago, I haven't really been much an RSS feed person. Somebody in Twitch says he suspects that different people are going to want different things, so it won't be easy to please everyone. We know. So it's just a starting point, a jumping off point, kind of what is the most critical, important information for people to know. So like, I don't think the weekly what's happening posts belong in an RSS feed, but I think that important highlights about SEPs, release timeline changes, those sorts of things would belong.
Yeah, and we can always start with something and iterate. That's my favorite thing.
Mine too.
Yeah, I haven't used RSS feeds in a little while, but they can be useful. And I just know that people asked for it, so wanted to make sure we were coming around, making sure we're getting you guys what you want.
Yeah, the security one was really well received when we released that. So
Yeah.
let's see. Somebody says for information to be included in new release, breaking changes, and known errata. Yep. Just for my own reference, I'm copy pasting those comments into the Zoom so that I can look at those later when I go and put together the open hour notes. And just, this is kind of, I'll probably ask this too in Slack, just get people's opinions on what they would like, because I'd like to get more than just the group who attends these open hours, kind of get some other people to weigh in with their opinions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then what about forums? This is one that a lot of us are back and forth at. Like, we don't have a true forum format anymore. So yeses and nos, drop in chat, would people actually be willing to use and participate in forums if we were to create a Salt Stack specific forum?
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday in a small group, and something that when we originally started working with the community, I think we were using Google Groups like this in this way, and I think it was intended for that, and we still sort of do, and it's more of a mailing list, and that's what it's just sort of evolved into, and that's fine. As we look at where communication is happening and what people are asking for, we've had people ask us about Reddit or Stack Overflow and some of those other things that are forum-like. Slack is forum-like, but not exactly. It's more of just a chat and synchronous and asynchronous communication that I don't know works for everyone. And we're really looking to maybe narrow that into a forum where we could have not only in person, you know, formal discussions, say maybe about implementations before we were to do an enhancement or write a SEP, but that would also be carried over into a mailing list and asynchronous communication that would give us a better way to do that. I think that the platforms that we're currently using were good when we started with them, and now maybe we need something else. And yet, or maybe we need to enhance what we've got and use those better. And so we're looking for community input there so that we can understand how we can do that better, or if we need to change platforms. Both of those things are an option, but we wanted to hear from you guys because we think that that's pretty important.
We did get a really good point in the Twitch chat that definitely sees the benefit of forums as it's more permanent and less real time than both Slack and RSC. It's got a wider scope. For me, one of the things that makes a resource useful is searchability. In a forum, things are going to obviously live longer because you don't run into the limits that Slack has, and you can search things.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, I guess Slack could be used in that way. That's an option. It's one option. I think there's other platforms that may do it better. So I want to keep that open. I don't want to limit communication to a tool. That seems wrong. And so I want to make sure that we're keeping our eyes open and being willing to go outside the box if we need to, but also not discount what we've got.
Yeah, I mean, I love Slack. I think it's great. I'm in and out it all day though, so it just makes sense for me to use it. But also, like I said, you run out of space in Slack, and sometimes I'll be looking for an old message and it's gone, which can be
right,
less
especially in
useful.
the community. Yeah, especially in the community Slack. Yeah, and that's a limitation of the tool right now that could be enhanced. But like I said, I'm not sure that that's the exact tool for a forum as we're talking about it right now. So maybe. Yep. I think that we're open to that idea and just want to hear from people on what they think.
Another good point from Tyler Bowers. He was hoping that the Google Groups would satisfy that, but it hasn't. Slack is too quick for longer discussions, such as a forum. Right. I agree on both of those points. Google Groups is quiet. It's very quiet as far as where conversations happen and questions happen, especially compared to Slack and then even IRC.
Kind of along those lines, like just thinking about the forums more, we had been discussing some potential solutions internally. One of them was like discourse. It seems pretty popular. But if anyone has any suggestions of ones that we should look at as we start kind of evaluating this idea, please definitely let us know.
Yep. Another point too about this is that we need to be careful not to split focus too much though. As a user, I wouldn't want to be lots of places to keep track of. I completely relate to that. Oh, it's another channel that we have to monitor. And so that would be, I mean, it would definitely be a change for the community if we were to move all things to a forum. And we're not necessarily making decisions on this today either, but it's a conversation to start having. All right, and you were asking for feedback on specific forum tools, Gareth?
Yeah, just any suggestions beyond like the ones that we've already like mentioned, like Discourse or Google Groups is considered a forum tool at this point. But any suggestions anyone has of ones that they've used in the past, or ones they like, just toss them out.
Zulip from Emron. It's like Slack that allows threads per channel they call streams. I haven't used that one. That's interesting. Good to know.
Zulip. I haven't heard of that. I know we've looked at Discourse. early on, and like the idea of that because it's open source, so it fits in with what else we're doing. But before we go into a deep dive examining tools and weighing pros and cons and going through a decision process, we want to find out if this is a thing that people use. And again, I think I'm going to ask about this in Slack and IRC as well, so that people can have, more people can have input into this conversation.
I think I remember seeing Zulip a few years ago. It's like a Slack alternative, right? For CI for formulas.
How's it working out for you to use it, Imran?
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just. Yeah, it's a really interesting little product. It's quite similar to Slack in many ways, but the interesting part is what they call these sort of threads that you can have. So imagine you had our general channel there in Slack. When someone starts a new point, they actually give it a topic name, and what you can then do is sort of keep that topic together. So it's a bit like threads, but not as separated as threads feel in Slack. So it still stays in the main body of the channel, but you can actually break down into threads and keep them long running. It's not threads, sorry, what do I call them? They are called threads, sorry, but they're done really quite well. It's an interesting alternative, but the good part as well is you don't lose that history. One of the things I don't like about Slack is whenever I need to find anything that we've spoken about in the past, it's almost impossible if it's been over a month. So it's an interesting alternative. I saw it mentioned in one of the other groups I'm with, some of the documentation stuff I look at, and they're thinking about moving to Zulip as well. So I checked it out and I started implementing it for formulas. Definitely an alternative worth considering.
Okay, cool. I'm literally making a list of forum tools to look into. This will be on my to-do list probably after the merge jam is when it'll really ramp up. But if people have other suggestions for forum tools, let me know. I'd like to look at, 3 to 5 of them before we decide what to use. All right, any final words on forums or RSS feed? All right, well, that was our last formal agenda item, so we have the next 15 minutes. Marcus says he uses GitHub. GitHub, oh, for forum. How does it work to use GitHub as a forum?
Like within the PR or the issue? Is that what you mean,
Yeah.
Marcus?
I have the same observation as Imran. Things get lost, and in GitHub, what I think is you can. I pretty much found back everything. In fact, nothing is lost. So even if it's not an ideal discussion tool, what I like about it is it's there. So and this makes me less nervous. I'm less interested in having a discussion where then somebody else is. I like it much more that I can find it back. So I organized all my problems around GitHub issues or pull requests, and I can even find back a little bit of discussion. It's not a very good discussion tool, but in the end, it's what I use most for salt.
Well, and GitHub is the one thing that everybody's on. It's the only thing that we are all using.
Yeah, and so thinking about that, this kind of comes back to what we were talking about, where do we need a different platform or do we not? Do we need to use the tools that we have? And if we're not capturing something in GitHub, but that's where everybody is, then maybe we need to look at making that better. And does that mean that if we're having something like, say, this meeting, for instance, where we put it into a wiki for the community, is that the right place? Do other people have ideas for that or where that should live? in GitHub in a different way. I mean, we're open to that. And so that's part of that iterative process of like, so if we did some sort of forum and we're looking at that in GitHub, what does that mean? And how could we do that better? And looking at that as like, is that the right platform because we're all on it? And so do we need to make it work for us? I think that's a discussion worth having, or Slack or the email lists. I think all of those, we could look at those individually and kind of say, is it this, or is it this, or is it this that we already have, or is this the best solution, and kind of do those pros and cons, a list out and say, this is where we really think this goes. And I'm interested in that. I think that's an interesting point. I'm not sure if GitHub is the right place, but I think it's a good topic to bring up. So thank you.
Yeah, I guess I do forget that there are Salt users who aren't developers who may not have GitHub accounts, which is a good point somebody just made.
Yep.
I mean, I've had GitHub for years and years, and I am not a developer, so you know.
Yeah, me too. So it's a really good point, but I do think it's interesting that that is how we've kind of evolved as the core team has evolved. That's where we went, and so that's where it is today. So do we want to expound on that, or is it a change? And good question. I don't have an answer either, but I like that it was posed.
I mean, we'll have an answer, what, in October?
Hopefully before then.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, that they're not searchable. Yeah, the searching of a topic would be difficult. I think we could do that better because there is syntax search within the body of an issue or a PR. And if we made that explicit and we asked for using certain syntax, maybe that would be better. But that's that seems like we're manipulating the tool to use it as our process goes. That maybe that's not right. Not sure. Yes.
Yeah, somebody suggests that we have a Slack channel dedicated to automated notifications, issues, threads, posts.
Yeah, and we've done that some, and I think that it's worked where we have that. Like the Bootstrap channel has that, and I think we could expound there, and I wholeheartedly agree. I don't know that that's a forum necessarily, but it's a good idea, and we want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever we do, it does seem like there needs to be some way for our Slack community to stay up on it, just because so many people are there, and I know it's going to take a very long time for people to move to another platform if they ever do.
Absolutely.
And like I said, Slack automations for a lot of these recurring things is on my to-do list at some point. So that would be something else we could add to that list of things to automate if we took that route.
As we talk about Slack and the integration with IRC, I'm not actually sure what my question is. I wonder how usable that is for IRC users within Slack, I guess, or however that works. Because right now, because of the community Slack is on the free version, which doesn't allow us to have a history. And so there's only so much that you can go back and search for. And my question is more around searching for something that would be there for IRC. Does that exist? I think it does.
A lot of channels on IRC keep a public log.
That's what I thought.
Something similar.
Yeah.
Just let me add something to that. Because we're now bridging through Matrix, Matrix is actually storing the whole history. So
that's right.
You wouldn't even need the IRC log anymore. You could just go to the Matrix room instead.
Cool. Suddenly I like that so much more. I'm a fan. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, there are IRC logs if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I thought so. Just couldn't remember. So, yeah. And Matrix I'm more familiar with, so that one I know.
What does everybody use for IRC? I was using the Freenode thing for a while, but it kicks me out every like 5 minutes, and so I miss things, and so I've just defaulted back to using IRC through Slack. But what tools does everybody recommend?
I
Yeah, if
use
it's,
WeChat with Glowing Bear. Works pretty
oh,
nice.
really?
Glowing Bear?
Yeah, so Glowing Bear is basically a web interface that connects over WebSocket to WeChat, and then WeChat I just leave running in a container and never actually look at it. So it's nice and pretty, and I can connect from anywhere.
Oh, WeChat, huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
I've used Riot, which is Matrix. I don't use it a ton, and I haven't used it for IRC for us, but I've used it for other things. It's okay. I'd be interested to try WeChat. Maybe I will.
Yeah. I think WeChat's the one that Wayne recommended to me when I asked this internally, actually. But
I've been using, there's a service, like the paid service, it's $10 a month US, called IRC Cloud. And it gives you like a web-based IRC client that you can connect to multiple IRC servers. They have like mobile clients for iOS, Android, and then the web client works pretty well. And I think they actually even have a way to connect their service to Slack, but I've never used that.
yeah, and WeChat has a Slack plugin apparently. That's good to know. All right, well, thank you for that. That was purely a Cassandra's curiosity question. All right, does anybody else have any other questions about releases, SEPs, events, anything like that? About 10 minutes still. Okay, what about snail jokes? Does anybody have one of those that they want to share from the beginning of the meeting? Somebody on Twitch said, no, bring on the snails.
A horse walked up to a snail, and the snail said, "Why the long face?"
Crickets.
It's the delivery that makes that so funny.
Touche. A man opened a snail farm. You know what he said? It's a slow moving business.
That's so silly.
Yuck, 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 yuck.
All right, well, on that note, I don't think we have anything else to cover. Just to reiterate, I'm looking for people to do 5-minute talks throughout SaltConf. I'm happy to help you brainstorm ideas, talk proposals, all that stuff. That's an area that I'm pretty good and pretty experienced in. I love doing conference talks and helping other people get started. So if there's something you want to talk about, let me know. I'll help you get that put together. I know it's only a couple weeks away, but we also, would be a 5-minute talk. So like I said, easy case scenario is how are you using Salt at work or in your side projects, or perhaps you have longer full Salt related talks. You can make short versions of those as well to share. All right, anybody else have anything else to add? All right, cool. Then I will give you all a few minutes back to your day, and I think we have documentation working groups actually coming up right after this for those who are interested. So I will see you all next week. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.